So many states are starting to ban transgender people from competing in sports. And although I do agree there needs to be something done to address the competition in some sports where trans women do have a slight advantage, but banning trans women is not the solution. I mean, other sports, there's a handicap. So somebody starts off with a few extra points or a few extra seconds or whatever. So a better solution instead of banning trans women from sports would be to have a handicap. So then in swimming, there should be some science studies, a lot of science studies in every sport pretty much, trying to figure out how much of an advantage on average trans women have. I mean, there's a lot of people who want cis women to be able to compete and not have trans women have an advantage. So a handicap is perfect. You don't have to ban trans women. I mean, even in high schools and stuff like that, and instead of banning trans people from sports, maybe just don't allow them to gain a scholarship. Allow them to play and compete and have interest in sport. Don't discourage trans people from competing in sports. I mean, to me, that's backwards. That comes from people really not knowing a whole lot about trans people to begin with. And I understand there's a lack of science on this, so that's partly why there's a lot of confusion and people upset about the issue, so I get it. I do agree there needs to be something done to address fairness in some sports where it is demonstrated trans women do have an advantage, and it's not all sports. That's the thing. There's plenty of sports where trans women do not have an advantage. And then why ban trans men from competing in sports? So what do you think? Do you think there should be science, lots of science to try and figure out if trans women have an advantage in different sports, and then compensate with handicaps to try and make things more fair instead of just banning trans women from competing in sports and killing a lot of people's motivation for competing in sport? I know some people say, oh, why don't just trans people start their own Olympics or something like that, like the Special Olympics? Well, it's not that simple. And keep in mind, some cis women are not even allowed to compete in sports just because they're just naturally built a little bit more masculine than feminine. You're not even allowing all the cis women to compete in sport. Now you want to ban trans women? What about the competition? Men's sports isn't so strict and hardcore like this. In men's sports, if a guy has a bigger build of a body, that's just accepted and nobody thinks twice. But when a cis woman has a bigger build than other cis women, she's not allowed to compete. So where's the fairness in this? So this is why I'm saying there should be handicaps. So what's the big deal? Why not just allow trans people to compete in sports? I mean, we make things fair.